So in a previous video I've shown you some tools for blending oil pastel with, and these are my most used tools. But today we're going to have a look at some other tools that you could use to blend your oil pastel with and ask ourselves, do they really work or are they worth the effort? So let's go and have a look. So as you can see, I've laid down 4 blocks of colour of 2 colours, and I'm just going to blend them into each other just to see how the blending tool works. This is more than sufficient to get an idea. Now it's important to add that the pastels I'm using are the Montmartre Signature oil pastel, so fairly standard oil pastel, and that it's not the warmest of days. So on a warmer day this might react better, but there is a chance that it could actually react worse because the movement of the pastel would be more. So either way, it's still an interesting thing to look at. So first off, I'm going to try my trusty old fingers. Now, here they are. Anyway, I've got to be perfectly honest with you and say I do not recommend ever blending with fingers if you can possibly help it. There are times when you may use it, but on the whole, no. And the reason for that is because your skin and the oil pastels, they really just rub against each other. And what you're doing is just moving the oil pastel to a different place most of the time, unless it's a good quality oil pastel. So I don't recommend fingers, but we're going to have a look. We're going to see how this blends. So I'm going to use my little pinky. So yeah, it's not really doing too much at the moment. We'll see what we end up with. And the thing is, you don't want to have to press too hard. Pressing too hard on an oil pastel is not the greatest idea, because blends don't work out quite as well, and you end up with what I'm ending up with now, because I'm having to press a little bit harder to get the blend, is pilling. And pilling is a patchiness. It's where it spreads the oil or wax binder and just basically leaves a patchiness. Yeah, see, the thing is with fingers is, for me, it just mutes the colour down, and you end up, hopefully you can see it, with all this pilling going on, so there's patchiness in there. You can add more oil pastel on it, but all you're going to do is to pull the pastel away from the pigment away from the binder, and it's just not going to look very good. There are times when you can use it, but you would just use it very lightly. So that's fingers. I'm going to put fingers there. Muted. We'll put muted there. So I don't recommend that at all. So another one we're going to have a look at, which I've seen people using quite a bit and I have never used, is the paper stump. Now my first thoughts are, why would you use a paper stump? Because again, the pastel is going to stick quite severely to the paper of the stump, and not only that, because some stumps are quite hard, the stump is going to press into the oil pastel and dig into it, so it's not going to overly work that great. However, there is a proper way of using a blender, and it's on this edge, so if you use that edge you might actually get away with it. Don't use it up on its point too often unless you're doing a really small area or a really detailed crevice or something that you have to push the oil pastel into. So my thoughts are, I would use this as it stands, but in very limited occasions. But let's test it first. So I'm going to blend round. It's not really moving the oil pastel that much at the moment. It's really not doing anything more than the finger would, so which is what I basically insinuated, didn't I? Let's bring in the purple down into the grey a lot better. That's actually quite a nice blend. I'm using it on its edge, as you can see. So that's the best way of using it for any medium, that is. It's pushing the oil pastel into the texture of the paper, so that's good. That's actually not too bad. Again, you're having to use quite a bit of force, and again I'm ending up with a slight patchiness going on there. If you remember in my previous video about oil pastel tools, I used basically silicone tipped type tools, and that is a lot better. So yes, if you have nothing else, use this. You will end up with patchiness, you will end up having to work hard, and you're going to have to clean your stump, and the way you clean that is with sandpaper. You get a bit of sandpaper and you scrub it on the sandpaper and twist it around as you're doing it, and all the colour will come off. It will never remain as clean as it started, but you'll get the oil pastel off. So be very careful with a stump when you're using them. That's got a blend. Again, it's muted the colours down, but it's usable. It's much better than the fingers. So we'll put stump there. Another thing that I've seen some people use, I've never really used it yet. I use it for other mediums such as soft pastel and pastel pencils, and I love it when I'm using a graphite pencil on a Bristol board. But it's this makeup sponge. Now, they're cheap as chips, and it's going to be interesting to see what it does. This is more silicone based than the other two tools, so I'm hopeful that this will end up better. Having said that, it does have some drag to it, just like the other tools, the fingers and the stump. It has some drag to it, so it may end up just pulling the oil pastel around rather than blending it. We'll have a look. So here we go on the grey. Well, it feels really nice and smooth, so that's nice. And I would say offhand right now, right this second, it's blending better than the other two. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Thinking out loud, a problem you will have with this is you're not going to be able to clean these very well. I'll tell you what happens when you put these into any type of mineral spirits or something like that to clean them. They all balloon up. So they're not very cleanable, so you're going to have to end up with a lot of these to actually use on your oil pastels. Now that's a much cleaner blend and a much smoother blend. That's not bad at all. So yes, I would say use that. It's not unlike the cotton bud, however it is a bit smoother. I prefer the cotton bud, but this, yeah, I'm actually quite impressed with that. Yeah, that's a lovely blend. And the more I do that, and there's not really any pilling going on, so it's smoothing everything out rather than pulling like these two did. Okay, so yeah, that's a good one. So that's makeup sponge. I would imagine a lot of you ladies would have a lot of them, so or maybe some of you men, I don't know. Anyway, another thing is tissue. Now, I have advised one of my students to use tissue once before, but he was doing a huge, massive area in oil pastel, such as a sky, and it seemed like the best idea. Now, the problem with tissue is you need a sturdy, robust tissue. Ones like you get on them really large white and blue rolls that you get in industrial places. That would be a better tissue than something like this that I've got cheap out of the kitchen. And the reason for that is it will stay together, it will blend better, and you won't get all this tearing that could end up in your oil pastel. They are my thoughts, and that is what I have proven. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use the tip and I'm going to blend this. Yeah, you can feel it's dragging it over the pastel. It's not really blending that well, to be fair. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to double it up. I'm going to put it in my finger like that and see if that makes any difference. Yeah, slightly better. But look, it's starting to get dirty. It's starting to get, well, they'll all get dirty, but it's starting to get dirty, and it's starting to mute the colour down, and it's very hard work. And if you look, we're starting to get some tearing off. So I wouldn't overly recommend that. It's not a bad blend, I suppose, but it has muted everything down. So we'll put paper towel. Okay, so what's the conclusion from that? The conclusion for me is use the tools I said about before. I will go over them again because I want to show you how they blend and how they blend out proper. The worst one of these is the fingers, and it's because your finger drags over the pastel and separates the pastel from the binder, and it becomes very patchy. I would say the next one for me, well, it's kind of equal between the paper towel and the stump, and probably that's because they're both made of paper. The stump isn't too bad, and the paper towel isn't too bad either, but they're not great. So use them in perhaps larger areas. Use the point of the stump in a detailed area. Try not to use the paper towel purely because of the paper tearing. So the one I'm actually quite pleased about is this makeup sponge. See, it hasn't become that dirty really, and you've got 4 sides you can use, so you could use that on 4 different colours potentially, and not have to worry. So look, you can see there's colour coming off. Actually, there's not a lot of colour, so that's not bad. But yeah, this has smoothed everything out and made it look very, very nice actually. I mean, the more I blend it, the more it's going to mute down. So you want to keep your blending to a minimum. Yes, that's quite good. That's a really nice smooth blend. It's kept the vibrancy, it's kept the smoothness, it hasn't pilled up, and I will certainly be looking to use these a bit more, I believe, because if I have something that I'm painting that has a smooth surface, I think these are going to be the way to go. Such as I did a boat once before. I think if I use this, that will be really good. So that's the test over, and I hope that helped. So the reality is, just find different things to blend with. Just think outside the box if you can. I'm sure some things will work and some things won't. One thing that I thought might work, and I've never had the opportunity to try it yet, is you have these styluses that have a rubber tip on them, and they are used for phones, I believe. I don't know much about phones at all, but I think they might make a good blender. And I've also seen quite an expensive makeup tool on Amazon that also has a rubber tip to it, and I think that may work well. I think when you're looking at the more silicone rubber type based blenders, they are better for oil pastels than like your papers or your fingers, because they just tend to drag over everything. So I hope that's been worth your while. It's been a while since I posted, unfortunately, because I did do this or another video previously, but I forgot to press the record button. So sorry about that. So it slowed my channel down a bit, which is a bit sad. But if you are here still, please subscribe, because it is helping me. And I'm getting near to the 1,000 now, and I'm desperate to make more and better videos. So until then, whomever, wherever you are, please have a great day, a great week and a great year, and please be kind to everyone. Take care. Bye.